The Buddha taught that human suffering often originates from greed, anger, and delusion. Therefore, to live happily, you should let go of some of your desires and accept imperfection as an essential part of being human. Letting go is the mark of a wise person. Only by knowing how to let go can one find happiness. When the mind is stubbornly preoccupied with desires, people tend to overthink, become easily hurt, and pay too much attention to others' reactions, forgetting themselves. Many pains in this life simply arise from holding too tightly to something that is no longer suitable. If we lessen our greed, stubbornness, and desire for things to go our way, those afflictions will have no place to cling and will depart, allowing us to live peacefully amidst a volatile world. Perhaps you too have experienced days when your heart felt as heavy as if carrying the entire sky. Sometimes you're so tired you don't know why. Sometimes you want to let everything go because it feels like nothing is holding you back, yet you don't know where to go or what to rely on. Life is often like a long, steep road. There are times when you feel overwhelmed, times when you're unsteady, and times when you just want to sit down and abandon everything. We are human. Everyone is weak in their own way, but we keep trying to appear strong. We forget that our hearts also have scratches that need to be heard, comforted, and touched with kindness. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment. We suffer because we hold on tightly, because we desire, because we think that everything must happen our way for us to be at peace. But life doesn't always go according to our small wishes. Like a leaf falling onto the surface of a lake, even a gentle breeze can ripple the water. The human mind is similar, fragile and easily affected. Just an unpleasant word or an unexpected action is enough to stir up turmoil in the heart. However, if the water is deep enough and the wind blows over, the lake's surface remains calm. If the mind is broad and clear enough, no matter how chaotic life becomes, we can still maintain inner tranquility. There's a story like this. A farmer carried 2 bamboo buckets of water on his shoulders. One bucket was cracked, so water leaked along the road. The farmer didn't blame the bucket for its flaw. Instead, he smiled every day because those drops of water transformed the dry, barren road into a vibrant path filled with blooming flowers. This simple story shows that life always has imperfections, but it is precisely these imperfections that create unexpected beauty. Sometimes, the pain you carry in your heart has contributed to making you more profound and compassionate. Sometimes, the falls you take help you understand yourself and others more than any lesson. If we learn to let go, will our minds become free? This is a question you can gently ask yourself right now. Letting go is not giving up responsibility or denying emotions. Letting go is simply allowing our minds to be less swayed by unnecessary things, to make room for peace to grow in our hearts. When you relax your tense shoulders, your breath will become lighter. When you release some fears and anger, what you receive is not loss, but freedom. Right now, you can try a small practice. Close your eyes, take a very slow breath in, then exhale very gently. As you exhale, imagine you are putting down the nameless worries you have carried on your shoulders all day. It's that simple. each exhalation is a moment you become a little lighter. The inhalation brings peace, and the exhalation returns what no longer belongs to you. You don't need to try too hard. Just allow your mind to be at ease for a few minutes. Letting go sometimes begins gently, like that, with the very breath you have. There are days when you wake up feeling as heavy as a stone, even though no one has hurt you that morning. There are evenings when you sit silently in a crowded coffee shop, feeling like you're the only one who's tired, empty, and struggling amidst unnamed things. Sometimes you work from morning till night, rushing from one plan to another responsibility, without understanding why your mind is constantly restless. Sometimes you hold your phone for the 10th time, unlock the screen, but still don't know what you're looking for. A very real emptiness, an indistinct weariness, a feeling of never being enough, as if you're always missing something that no one can define. Modern life is like that. People live hastily, quickly, breathlessly, as if it's natural. Everyone feels they need to try a little more, achieve something more, prove they're not inferior to anyone. But when night falls, when all the sparkling lights outside lose their appeal, when it's just you and yourself, you realize that suffering doesn't lie in what you don't have, but in what you cling to too tightly in your heart. We hold on to worries. We hold on to anger. We hold on to desires. We even hold on to shadows that are no longer suitable. And then our hearts become so constricted that there's no room for peace to enter. The Buddha once said that the root of suffering is greed, anger, and delusion. Hearing those three words seems simple, but they are the key that unlocks the entire nature of human pain. The longer we live, the more easily we realize that every time our heart is hurt, there's a shadow of greed, anger, or delusion standing behind it. A person with greater greed will be weaker because the more they want, the more they fear losing. The more they want to keep, the more tired they become from worrying. When greed grows large enough, restlessness will also grow day by day. Anger, building up in the heart, hurts us more than any words from others. Delusion is the blindness that leads us astray, making us cling to what is not real, hold on to what is no longer suitable, and then relentlessly torment our own minds. If you pay a little attention, you'll realize that greed always makes us unstable. When we have a little money, we want more. When we achieve a small success, we want a bigger success. The more we want, the more we cling to desires, the more easily we are hurt. If only people understood that wanting is not wrong. It's only when we let desire lead our minds too far that suffering arises. Anger is like a smoldering fire in the heart. Sometimes you think you've forgotten, but just one word that touches an old wound can make that fire flare up violently again. Anger has never made you happier. It only makes you more tired, makes your face heavier, makes your heart heavier. And delusion is like a fog before your eyes. When led by delusion, we often don't realize we are lost. We keep trying to hold on to someone who doesn't belong to us, keep wanting to change what is naturally flowing according to the laws of nature. And the further we go, the more tired we become, the more we pursue, the more we hurt. One of the most ordinary and relatable stories to clearly see greed, anger, and delusion is the story of Hung, a construction worker the Zen Buddhist channel once encountered. His life was nothing special, but his very ordinariness contained a profound lesson. Hung came from poverty. From a young age, he knew what it meant to lack things. When he started a family, he harbored a simple dream: to build a decent house so his wife and children wouldn't have to suffer from leaks every rainy season. That wish was good, but over time, that desire grew into an aspiration. The aspiration then grew into an intense craving. He wanted a bigger house, a more beautiful one with more amenities, one that wouldn't be inferior to anyone else's. At first, he only thought that a little more effort would be fine, but after constantly striving, his heart was no longer at peace. When he built his first small house, he hadn't even had time to be happy before he thought about building a second, more substantial one. When he bought a mid-range motorcycle, he longed for a more beautiful scooter. He worked day and night, constantly working overtime, rarely home for dinner. He gradually forgot that his eldest son only wanted his dad to sit with him and watch a soccer match. He forgot that his wife only longed for a complete meal with her husband's presence. The more money he earned, the more he feared that one day he would lose everything. Greed made him so restless that every time he held money in his hand, he thought of the risks that could snatch it away. His mind was no longer at ease, no longer knew what it was like to feel light. Then, one day, the company where he worked had to restructure. His team was cut. The wall of ambition he had built in his heart, which he thought was solid, suddenly collapsed. In just one morning, Hung sat in front of his house, looking at the bricks he had laid, the ones he had nurtured, and tears streamed down his face, too fast to wipe away. He realized he had lost something far more precious than money. It wasn't the house, it wasn't the car. He had lost the warm moments with his family. He lost the simple meals full of love. He lost the opportunity to hear his child talk about the day's lesson. He lost the peaceful evenings when he and his wife sat and chatted. He lost his own lightness. The day he lost his job, his mind flared up with all three: greed, anger, and delusion at once. He was greedy because he regretted the effort he had put in, regretted what he hadn't yet achieved. He was angry because he felt life was unfair, that he had worked hard but received no reward. He was deluded because he thought only money could make him happy. Only a big house could give him a sense of security. But then, when everything collapsed, he saw how fragile human life truly is. What we fear most is not external loss, but the loss of inner peace. One day, he sat with his young son. The boy handed him a drawing of a house with 3 people holding hands. He asked why his son hadn't drawn a taller, more beautiful house. The boy just smiled and said that a house needs 3 people in the picture to be the most beautiful. That simple statement resonated in his heart like a bell. All this time, he had chased the house on the street, forgetting that the real home is where his loved ones are present. He kept chasing societal recognition, forgetting that his family didn't need him to be perfect. They just needed him to be loving enough and present enough. He kept holding on to money, forgetting to hold on to happiness. He kept building houses, forgetting to build inner peace. When he understood that, he began to confront the fear in his heart. He realized that greed made him fear loss, anger made him hurt, and delusion led him astray. He sat down, took a deep breath, looked within himself, and asked why he had let these things lead his mind for so many years. He realized that the root of suffering was not in circumstances, but in an unpeaceful mind. It wasn't losing his job that caused him pain, but his attachment to money that made him fearful. It wasn't society that made him sad, but the comparisons of gain and loss in his mind that made him weary. He understood that until now he had never truly lived, but only lived according to the desires created by ambition. After seeing that truth, Hung gently returned to a normal life. He started working as an assistant on a small construction project near his home. His salary wasn't high, but he felt much lighter than before. He ate dinner with his family every evening, listened to his son tell stories about school, and listened to his wife talk about simple things from her day. He smiled more, slept more soundly, and his heart was no longer heavy. He understood that letting go is not abandoning everything, but putting down the things that cause his mind to suffer. When the mind sees the root of suffering, the mind will also know the way to heal itself. Hung's story clearly reflects the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha said that all suffering begins with clinging too tightly. Greed makes us feel that what we have is never enough. Anger makes us respond to life with deeper wounds. Delusion makes us wander endlessly without finding our way home. When we look into our hearts and clearly see these three things, we will know why we suffer and where to begin to transform, to recognize that our minds are suffering. Sometimes you just need to stop and ask a very gentle question. Why am I sad? What am I truly sad about? Sad because of loss? Or sad because I fear loss? Why am I angry? What am I truly angry about? Angry because others are wrong, or because I expected them to be different? Why am I worried? Worried about what's about to happen, or because I cannot accept that life is impermanent? The mind only suffers when it tries to hold on to what cannot be kept. When you see through that, sometimes a pain that has existed for years naturally subsides. Now you can try a small practice to listen to yourself. Place both hands on your chest, gently close your eyes, and take a deep breath. As you breathe in, recognize that you are still here, still breathing, still having the opportunity to renew yourself. As you exhale, release a little bit of the desire that is making you tired. You don't need to release everything immediately, just a little. Inhale. Be aware. Exhale. Let go. Inhale peace. Exhale relief. If you have a worry in your heart, put it into your exhalation. If you have a fear in your heart, let it leave you with each gentle breath. Such a simple practice can help you return to yourself right in this moment. You can also write down 3 things you are clinging too tightly to. It could be an unfulfilled desire, a worry about the future, a comparison that makes you tired. Once you write them down, look at them as you would look at clouds in the sky. When the clouds drift away, the sky becomes clear again. When suffering passes, the mind becomes bright. Nothing will hold you back forever if you choose to step out. The Zen Buddhist channel hopes you understand that suffering is not your enemy. It is just a gentle reminder that you are straying too far from your heart. And when you return, when you know how to let go, When you know how to smile at impermanence, you will see that this life is actually gentler than you thought. When the mind knows how to let go, life will be happy. May peace find you in every breath. There are times amidst this busy life when we feel our hearts heavy, as if carrying a large stone. No one sees that stone, but we know it's there, deep in our chest, weighing down our breath, making us feel tired every morning, even after a long night's sleep. Some carry the sorrow of a past relationship. Others cling to old things from the past, from a job they were once very proud of to an unwanted turning point in life. Some hold on to someone's thoughtless words in their hearts, letting them cut into their souls day after day. Others cling to the images of days when they thought they were more beautiful, more talented, more respected. All these things accumulate and become a burden that we ourselves don't understand why we've carried for so long. When we don't know how to let go, pain is like an underground current. It's not as noisy as ocean waves, but it still erodes our vitality from within. We go to work, but feel no joy. We laugh and talk, but our hearts are empty. Sometimes we think we've overcome it, but just a reminder, an old image, a familiar place, and everything rushes back as if it happened yesterday. Sometimes we blame ourselves. Why am I so weak-hearted? Sometimes we wonder, why after all these years, can I still not feel lighter? Then we sink into a spiral. We want to forget, but keep remembering. We want to put it down, but our hands hold on tight. In such moments of weariness, we often think that letting go means losing, refusing, no longer loving, or no longer cherishing. It is precisely because of this misunderstanding that we dare not let go. We fear that if we release it, that thing will leave forever, never to be touched again. We fear the feeling of loss. We fear being left behind. We fear facing the emptiness that letting go brings. But in Buddhist teachings, letting go is a very gentle awakening. It is not running away from life. It is not indifference or coldness, and it is certainly not forcing oneself to forget things that were once important. Letting go in the Dharma means gently returning everything to its rightful place. In the flux of impermanence, everything will change. Nothing lasts forever. No joy stays, just as no sorrow lasts a lifetime. When we understand this with our hearts, not just our minds, we will gradually feel that letting go is like a deep breath. We open our hearts. We surrender to the natural flow of life. We don't force it to go our way, and the lightness comes from within, not from anything external. Letting go is not losing, but helping our minds escape from what is holding us captive in suffering. It's like a cramped room that hasn't been opened for too long. Only when we are willing to clean and remove unnecessary items can light enter. Our minds are the same. If we keep holding on to memories that hurt us, expectations that disappoint us, comparisons that make us feel inferior, then no matter how good life is on the outside, we cannot be truly happy. The Buddha once taught that letting go is not having nothing, but having everything. When we let go of a pain, we gain peace. When we let go of an attachment, we gain freedom. When we let go of a heavy past, we gain the opportunity to open up a new future. The wider the mind, the more happiness can enter. If the mind is still constricted, happiness is difficult to reside for long. In meditation, there is a beautiful metaphor. Just as when we open our hand, a falling leaf will drop, and from that, a new life will begin. The leaf has completed its life cycle. If the tree tries to hold on to the leaf, the branch will weaken, and new shoots will not have room to grow. Nature always knows how to regenerate. Only humans sometimes stubbornly refuse to learn the simple lesson that all things have taught for thousands of years. The story of Ms. Lan is a very relatable example. She was once a beloved teacher to many generations of students. Her days on the podium brought her profound pride. Every morning going to school, the opening drum beat, the students reciting lessons, the seasons of red phoenix flowers all became unforgettable, beautiful memories. But then time passed. She retired, and the familiar school, once her daily destination, was now only a place she occasionally passed by, no longer entering every day. Friends and colleagues were scattered. Beautiful memories remained, but it was like a closed door. Since she stopped teaching, Ms. Lan became more quiet. She spent a lot of time looking back at old images, group photos, and thank you notes from students. The more she looked, the emptier she felt. A sense of loss always appeared in her heart, as if she had lost an important part of herself. She often thought that if she were still teaching, she would be less lonely, happier, and live with more purpose. But by constantly comparing the present with the past, she gradually felt lonely and sad. One autumn afternoon, she decided to walk around a park near her home. The sky that day was clear, and a gentle breeze swayed the yellow leaves on the trees. As she sat resting on a stone bench, a leaf fell from above and landed right on her shoulder. She didn't know why, but at that moment, she slowly picked up the leaf and looked at its withered veins. She gently rotated it in her hand and wondered if it was sad to leave the branch where it was born. The answer naturally appeared in her mind. She understood that the leaf fell because it had completed its mission. It made way for the budding new leaves. If it clung to the branch, the tree would weaken, and spring would no longer be fresh. The leaf didn't fall because it was abandoned. It fell to continue its journey back to the earth, nourishing the roots for the green shoots of tomorrow. In that moment, Miss Lan felt something she had never understood before. She realized that she, too, was like the leaf in her palm. Her time teaching was beautiful and meaningful. She had sown many good seeds, but now it was time for her to embark on a new journey, lighter and more peaceful. She was no longer the teacher of those vibrant years, but she was still someone who could continue to sow love in a different way. When she released her regrets about the past, her mind suddenly opened up. She smiled at the leaf for a long time, then placed it on the grass, returning it to where it belonged. From that day on, Ms. Lan changed a lot. She no longer confined herself to the room full of old memories. She began to attend meditation classes for seniors. She volunteered to teach literacy to poor children. Every morning, she woke up with the mindset of someone living, not someone who had left life behind. She recounted that when she learned to breathe, she clearly felt the lightness of each inhalation and exhalation. She felt she was entering a new season of life, no longer a fallen leaf, but a sprouting seed born from the letting go within her heart. Ms. Lan's story shows us a beautiful truth. Letting go does not make us lose what is precious, but only helps us recognize its true value. When we stop clinging, what needs to stay will stay naturally. What needs to leave will leave to make way for other good things. Letting go helps us return to ourselves, a lighter and freer being. The Buddha's teaching on letting go is always very compassionate. He never forced people to forget the past or to suppress emotions. He only advised us to see everything with the wisdom of impermanence. When we see the true nature of life, we will understand that there is nothing to cling to for too long. Joys change, and sorrows will also pass. True love will always find a way to return in a different form. And if it is no longer suitable, our holding on will only cause more pain for both. Letting go is giving ourselves an opportunity to heal and also giving others an opportunity to be free. To practice letting go, we can start with very small and ordinary steps. First, let's sit in a quiet place. Place our hands on our chest to feel each breath. Breathe in deeply. Exhale slowly. Each breath is like a stream of water washing away tension, worries, and things we have suppressed for too long. We can close our eyes and gently ask ourselves, what is weighing most heavily on our minds? We don't need to try to solve it immediately. We just need to see it, name it correctly, and smile at it. When we identify our pain, we have taken a step very close to letting go. After a few breaths, we can write down 3 things we want to gently release today. It could be a sorrow, an old expectation, a word that once hurt us. When we write, we bring those invisible thoughts out of our minds and place them in the light of awareness. Every day, we write a little, not too much. Then we reread it and tell ourselves that we are strong enough to live without being controlled by those things anymore. If someone has ever hurt us, instead of blaming or holding a grudge, let's send them a silent forgiveness in our hearts, not to condone what they did, but for our own peace. When we forgive, the first person to be liberated is always ourselves. At the end of the practice, we place our hands on our heart and gently say, thank you. Thank you for the past, for helping us grow. Thank you for the present, for giving us the opportunity to renew ourselves. Thank you to ourselves for trying not to give up despite many difficulties. Letting go is not an easy path, but each small step brings us closer to true happiness. When we open our hearts, life will open a path. When our minds lighten, the outside world will gradually become brighter. And then we will see that everything happens for a reason. May you always maintain a peaceful heart. May each listening session leave a little lightness in your mind. Just let your mind open like a hand releasing a leaf. And new life will naturally and gently find its way to you. Amidst a life full of constant movement, there are days when people feel as if they are carrying a whole world of weariness in their hearts. It seems that the older we get, the deeper we go into life's currents, the more worries we accumulate without even realizing it. Some worry about making ends meet. Some are burdened by their careers. Some dwell on past events. And some, despite trying very hard, still feel their lives are too heavy. Heavy with things they want but cannot have. Heavy with things that have happened but cannot be changed. Heavy with what others say. Heavy with what they themselves cannot forgive themselves for. Sometimes we are not tired because of work or life, but because of the thoughts in our heads. Sometimes, looking at other people's faces, we see everything is peaceful. But when we look deep into our own minds, we only see a battlefield of anxieties, jealousies, doubts, and fears. These things silently build walls, separating us from happiness little by little. They make us live stressed, heavy, and lose our inherent joy. In such moments, the listener probably also wonders why people have to struggle so much. Why carry so many things on one's shoulders? Why does the more one wants good, the more tired one feels? Have you ever wondered why some people walk so lightly, while you can't let go of even small things? Have you woken up many times in the middle of the night thinking about something old? Have you stifled a sigh because you didn't know where to begin to unravel things? No matter how strong, everyone still has soft, hidden corners. So today, let's sit together and slowly look at the things that are quietly weighing down our hearts, to understand that some things must be held tightly, but also that some things are better for us to let go. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering arises from what we cling to. Therefore, if we want our hearts to lighten, we must first learn to let go of unnecessary things. Letting go in the Dharma is not rejection or escape, but an awakening that recognizes what is making us tired. Sometimes we hurt not because life is difficult, but because we try to hold on to too many things that don't belong to us. Sometimes we are disappointed not because people change, but because we expect too much. Sometimes we are afraid not because the future is scary, but because we haven't learned to put down the burdens in our heads. So, to begin the journey of peaceful living, we need to look at 7 important things that people often cling to, preventing the mind from truly being calm. First is excessive ambition. It is good for people to have dreams, and goals are valuable. But when ambition exceeds the heart's capacity to receive, it becomes a burden. Too much ambition easily pushes us into an endless race. We want more and then fear losing. We have something, but still feel it's not enough. We achieve one thing and then want something bigger. Life is like a long slope, and we always think we must reach the peak to be happy. But after climbing for a long time and looking back, we realize our legs are exhausted and our hearts are empty. Those who are too ambitious often weaken themselves, weak from fear, from not daring to stop, from not daring to accept that they are tired. Many people think they need to have a lot to be at ease, but sometimes just enough is already happiness. Enough to eat, enough to wear, enough health, enough peace, enough love, enough to smile every morning and tell ourselves that today we are still fine. Excessive ambition is like trying to carry a bag full of stones on our back just because we fear others' judgment. No one actually asked us to carry those stones. We choose to carry them ourselves and then suffer in our own desires. The second thing we need to let go of is old attachments. People are particularly prone to getting stuck in past events. Some regret an old relationship. Some are hurt by a word. Some resent someone who once harmed them. These memories that no longer exist become a rope tying us down, preventing us from moving forward in the present. Attachment is like a rope tying our feet, making it impossible to walk. The more we think, the more we hurt, the more we cling, the more we lose. There are things from yesterday that we cannot change, but we still let them control today and many years later. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent. What has passed is like flowing water. Water never flows backward, but people always want to drag the past along with them. Remembering is fine. Regretting is normal. But if we let it become a burden, we are losing the happiness of the present. Releasing attachment is not forgetting the past completely, but understanding that it is over, and we no longer need it to define our self-worth. Next is the fear of failure. Perhaps everyone in life has feared not being good enough, not being capable enough to do something. Afraid of others laughing? Afraid of others thinking we're incompetent? Afraid of not meeting expectations? This fear makes us hesitate to change, to try, to move forward. We keep standing in one place just because we're afraid we can't do it. But you know, failure is not as scary as not daring to live true to our own desires. Life is impermanent. Success or failure is just a part of the journey. What matters is that we have tried and grown more than yesterday. When we are less afraid, we will be lighter. When we know that every step can be a lesson, we will be more courageous. Letting go of fear sometimes simply means telling ourselves, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to try my best in this moment. Fourth is letting go of jealousy. Few people escape the mind of jealousy. We see others doing better than us and feel resentment. We see others succeed and wonder why life is unfair. We see others lucky and feel disadvantaged. Jealousy is like a small fire smoldering in the heart, not hurting us immediately, but making our hearts agitated and restless. The important thing is that jealousy doesn't diminish others. It only robs us of our peace. Everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own karmic fortune. People have what they have today because of their yesterdays. We have our present because of what we have been through. No one is the same, so there's no need to compare or be jealous. Gently look back at yourself and ask why you inflict pain on yourself just because of others' lives. When we let go of jealousy, we find our hearts broader and our minds lighter. The fifth thing we should let go of is a rigid ego. The ego makes us believe we are right and others are wrong. The ego makes us unwilling to listen, unwilling to soften, to understand each other better. When the ego is too big, we easily get angry, easily become sensitive, and easily hurt. The ego is like a stone in the middle of the road. If we don't move it, we will stumble. The Buddha taught that one who bows their head is one who has conquered themselves. Gentleness is not weakness, but wisdom. When we let go of rigidity and look at things with an understanding mind, life becomes much more pleasant. Sixth is letting go of hatred. Hatred is like a fire that consumes the one holding it. People often say that too much anger leads to foolishness. When we are angry, we easily say words that hurt others. And afterward, we ourselves suffer from what we blurted out. Hatred doesn't solve problems. It only makes us more tired. Letting go of hatred is learning to smile at imperfection, learning to forgive others and ourselves. Forgiveness is not because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve peace. Finally, letting go of negative thoughts. Sometimes we haven't encountered anything bad, but we already think in a negative way. We often worry about things that haven't happened, making ourselves restless and our minds heavy. Negative thoughts are like dark clouds that obscure a peaceful sky. When we change our perspective, we will see that life also changes. When we direct our minds toward good, we will feel we have more energy to live. To understand more about what needs to be let go of, let's look at a small, everyday story where a great lesson bloomed from the most ordinary things. A long time ago, in a small village, there lived an old woman named Thu, who sold goods. Her life was simple. Every morning, she woke up very early, carried her twin baskets to the market to sell cakes and fruits. Despite her hardships, she was always loved by everyone. Nearby, an old man often gave her rice every weekend as a way to help the poor. But people's hearts are not always light. Despite receiving help, Mrs. Thu always carried a feeling of envy towards the vendors near the market. She saw them having many customers and sighed. She saw them having more beautiful stalls and felt sad. Every day was the same. She didn't say it aloud, but there was always a sense of comparison in her heart. That envy was like an invisible stone that made her feel heavy wherever she went. One day, seeing her sigh too much, the old man asked, "Are you carrying stones or goods, child?" Mrs. Thu was surprised, not understanding. The old man looked at her thin shoulders and slowly said, "The goods are not heavy, but the stones in your heart are. If you carry goods, you only tire your body. But if you carry stones, you tire your whole life." Hearing that, Mrs. Thu stood silently for a long time. She had never thought she was carrying invisible stones, just because of envy. It turned out her sadness did not come from her poor life, but from her own comparative thoughts. From that day on, she began to change. She no longer paid attention to who sold more. She focused only on her own work and smiled at the people passing by. Gradually, she felt her heart lighten, as if she had put down something very large. It turned out that to feel light, one only needed to let go of the unnecessary. Through Mrs. Thu's story, we understand that the greatest burden in life is not external things, but the stones in our hearts. Releasing those stones is the way for the heart to be free. The Buddha taught that to travel far, one must lighten their luggage. Only with a light heart can one's steps be firm. Only with a peaceful heart will life be peaceful. To practice letting go, we can start with our breath. Every morning when you open your eyes, place your hand on your chest and breathe deeply. As you inhale, acknowledge the emotions you are feeling. As you exhale, release unnecessary things. You can also write down what makes you tired and ask yourself if anything really needs to be held on to. Writing helps us identify our worries more clearly. Besides breath, we can also practice gratitude. When we are grateful for life, grateful even for imperfections, we will complain less and hold on to fewer negative things. The more grateful the mind, the easier it is to lighten. The more compassionate the mind, the easier it is to lighten. When we can let go little by little, we will find ourselves no longer reacting strongly to things we dislike. We will endure more gently, love more deeply, and look at life with a more tranquil gaze. Truly letting go does not make us lose anything, but gives us everything. It gives us peace, space to breathe, and the opportunity to live true to our gentle nature. The Zen Buddhist channel sends you a small wish. May you be able to put down some stone you have carried for too long in the coming days. May your heart be lighter than yesterday and more peaceful than tomorrow. May every step you take carry the serenity of someone who knows that happiness comes from letting go in your own heart. And may your life open up more as your mind becomes clear and free. Just as the heart lightens, the whole world around you will also become gentler. In modern life, perhaps the easiest thing for many of us to forget is our own breath. We chase after too many things, from work to responsibilities, from worries about making a living to invisible pressures that no one sees but weigh heavily on our hearts every day. Many people wake up feeling tired, as if they hadn't slept at night, go to work feeling stressed, and return home with an exhausted soul, without the energy to smile at their loved ones. We live as if driving a car without brakes, constantly moving without knowing where we want to go. We eat without knowing we are eating. We sit, but our minds drift to the worries of tomorrow. We breathe, but we don't even realize we are breathing. The sounds of life, the gentle breeze, the birds singing near the eaves, everything is still there, but it seems to no longer touch our hearts, because inside us there is too much tension, trouble, and incessant murmuring voices. Many people confide that they feel stuck among thousands of worries. Some worry about illness, some fear failure, some live with the obsession that they are not good enough. Some carry old wounds from many years ago and have never truly touched them to heal. People are tired because their minds are constantly being carried away. When the mind is carried to the past, it sinks into regret. When the mind is carried to the future, it is filled with fear. Few truly take their own hand and bring themselves back completely to this moment, because in fact, living in the present is the hardest thing. In the Buddha's teachings, there is something incredibly important, yet surprisingly simple. That is awareness in every breath. Mindfulness is not something esoteric or only achievable in a temple. Mindfulness is the ability to return to oneself, to recognize that one is alive, one is breathing, one is walking on this earth. A mindful person is not someone without suffering, but someone who knows how to soothe suffering by returning. The breath is the anchor that keeps us steady amidst life's turbulent currents. Sometimes we think that to find peace, we must change our environment, change our job, change our life. In reality, the most important thing to change is our own mind when facing life. Some people live in a bustling city, yet their minds are at peace. Others live in a pure, tranquil forest, yet their hearts are never calm for a moment. So peace has never been where we stand, but in how we breathe and how we see. There are times when we need to stop to hear our footsteps touch the ground, to hear the natural sounds of life, to realize that this life still holds many gentle things. We don't always have the luxury of leaving everything behind and finding refuge, but we can find refuge within ourselves through gentle breathing and complete presence. Many ask, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is simply knowing what you are doing in the present moment. We breathe in, knowing we are breathing in. We breathe out, knowing we are breathing out. We take a step, knowing we are taking a step. When present in this moment, we are no longer pulled away by thoughts. We are no longer led back to the past by old wounds. We are no longer afraid of things yet to come. We truly return. That return is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. A long time ago, in many sutras, the Buddha taught that breath is the bridge between body and mind. When the mind is agitated, just breathe deeply and gently, and the breath immediately brings us back to stability, like cool water flowing through a burning soul. A person who knows how to breathe is a person who knows how to live, because every conscious breath is a step back to the life that is nurturing. We breathe in. We feel alive. We breathe out. We feel we still have an opportunity to start anew. In the early mornings, if you have ever walked in a park or a small alley, you may have heard birds singing from the trees. But we don't always notice. When the mind is full of worries, even if the birds sing all day, their songs don't penetrate the deepest part of our hearts. But when the mind settles, we realize that sound is like a small gift that life offers. A gift not everyone has the opportunity to notice. The story of young Min is a testament to this. Min is only 13 years old, but is already familiar with academic stress. The pressure of being at the top of his class, achieving good results, and pleasing his parents constantly strains his small soul. Every time he opens his notebook, Min feels a pang in his heart, fearing he won't succeed. He studies without joy. He breathes as if he can't breathe. In his mind, there is always a voice pushing him to try harder. Gradually, Min became irritable, laughed less, and was always in a state of exhaustion. One day, during a school extracurricular activity, Min met a meditation teacher. The teacher saw the sadness in Min's eyes and asked, "Are you tired?" Min just nodded softly. The teacher asked him to follow him to the schoolyard. That morning, the sky was clear, the sun was gentle, and a breeze was blowing. The teacher told Min that sometimes, to heal, we just need to breathe and look up at the sky. Min was still very confused, but followed. The teacher told him to close his eyes, gently place his hands on his belly, and just follow his breath. Breathe in. Know you are breathing in. Breathe out. Know you are breathing out. No effort, no forcing, no expectation of anything happening, just simply breathing. Min did this for a while, and then heard birds singing nearby. A sound he had probably heard many times before, but had never truly felt. That day, the bird song felt clearer, closer, touching his heart in a very strange way. Min opened his eyes and looked up at the sky, seeing white clouds drifting. He felt the gentle breeze caress his skin. For the first time in months, Min felt truly relaxed. He turned to the teacher and asked why he had never heard the birds so clearly before. The teacher just smiled and said that when one's mind is busy, even if the birds sing all day, one won't hear them. But when the mind settles, everything around becomes a gift. From that day on, every morning, Min spent a few minutes breathing and looking up at the sky. Just that. And his life gradually changed. He studied with a calmer mind. He no longer forced himself to be perfect. He understood that to do well, the first thing to do is to return to himself. He told his mother that the morning birdsong was a gift that made him start a new day with a smile. His mother was both surprised and touched to hear it. a 13-year-old child who knows how to return to his breath. Perhaps that is something many adults still haven't managed to do. From Min's story, we see that mindfulness is not something distant or difficult to achieve. Mindfulness is simply returning to natural breathing and placing the mind in the present. That is how the Buddha taught us to look back at ourselves and understand that all suffering can be eased if we know how to stop at the right time. When we know how to breathe, we know how to live. When we know how to live in the present, we appreciate small but meaningful things. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha taught that breath is a fundamental practice that helps stabilize the mind. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. We don't try to change the breath. We just recognize it as it is. When our mind wanders, we use the breath to bring the mind back. When our body is tired, we use the breath to nourish the body. The breath is a gift that everyone has, but not everyone knows how to cherish. You can practice right now with a short meditation. Sit in a gentle place, relax your shoulders, gently close your eyes, and place your hands on your belly. Breathe in and notice your belly slightly rising. Breathe out and feel your belly falling. When a thought appears, don't push it away. Just smile and return to your breath. You can silently say in your mind, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I smile. I am here in the moment of life. If you dedicate a few minutes to this practice every day, your mind will gradually settle. You will find that the things that stress you become lighter. You will find that the things you once worried about no longer occupy all the space in your mind. You will find your heart opening up to embrace simple joys. A person who practices mindful breathing is like someone who carefully waters a small tree. That tree will grow over time and provide shade. Mindful breathing is the same. It nourishes our soul, little by little. Try practicing while walking. You take a step and know you are taking a step. You hear the wind blow and know the wind is blowing. You feel the sunlight and know the sun is warming you. Each step is an imprint of life. Each breath is a return. When we walk in mindfulness, the worries of life no longer weigh on our shoulders. We feel lighter, more stable, and more peaceful. When you know mindfulness, you will see that everything around you becomes a gift. A flower blooming in the yard, the sound of rain falling at night, the laughter of children outside the alley, simple moments that we previously unintentionally missed. Life has never lacked beauty. It's just that we haven't been present enough to see it. I want to send you a wish for peace. May you take a few minutes each day to return to yourself. May each breath become a companion, helping you overcome stress and life's fluctuations. May you always hear your own bird song, the small gift that life still offers, but only those with a peaceful mind recognize. And may you always remember that as long as you know how to breathe, you have begun to know how to live. There are times amidst this busy and hurried life when people easily find themselves sinking into a feeling of despondency without knowing why. Every morning upon waking, many still carry unnamed sorrows in their hearts. Sometimes it's an old story they haven't forgotten. Sometimes it's silent wounds from the past. And sometimes it's the confusion of not knowing where to go in life. People often have a habit of running away from pain, finding something to busy themselves with, to forget, to pretend they're fine. But the more they avoid it, the heavier their hearts become, because the pain that we don't confront doesn't disappear. It only finds a deeper place to reside. Then, one day, in the dead of night, when the mind is most weary, that pain rises like an inner call. There are nights when many sit alone in a dark room, clutching their heavy chests and wondering why they suffer so much. It's not because life is too cruel, but because there are things we lack the courage to look at directly. We dare not face the truth that someone no longer loves us. We dare not accept that some past events cannot be changed. We dare not face the wound we carry simply because the mind resists, pushes it away, refuses to open up to see the root cause. And as the Buddha taught, where there is resistance, there is suffering. But when the mind can calmly look at the wound, wisdom will find a way to blossom. In Buddhism, there is a simple yet profound truth. The more we cling, the more we hurt. The more we resist, the more tired we become. But when we gently accept, everything naturally returns to its rightful place, the moment the mind chooses to stop and listen. That is the first step of growth. People do not grow from peaceful days, but from their most difficult days. Some wonder why they must experience suffering. But if we pay attention, we will see that most of the most important lessons in life are given to us during the most challenging moments. Pain, when viewed with a calm mind, becomes wisdom and power to move forward. The image of a pearl oyster in nature is a beautiful example that the ancients used to describe the transformation of the mind. An oyster living in the open sea is inherently gentle and soft. However, during its life, it may sometimes have a tiny grain of sand enter its shell. That grain of sand causes irritation and hurts the oyster. Its nature is not to resist or try to remove the grain of sand, but to envelop, cherish, and transform it. It secretes nacre, layer after layer, to embrace that grain of sand. Day after day, month after month, over time, from that wound and adversity, a luminous pearl is formed. Without the wound, there would be no pearl. Without acceptance, there would never be beauty. The human mind is the same. A person who knows how to look at pain with serenity, who knows how to embrace it as part of themselves, that person will transform suffering into a precious gem. Conversely, whoever constantly resists and drives away suffering will sink deeper into weariness. To transform pain into wisdom is a very real journey in life, not just a metaphorical image. The story of Ms. Hoa, a single mother I once met, is a clear testament to this. She is a simple, gentle, and affectionate woman. She married at 27, hoping for a peaceful home, but her marriage was not as she expected. Her husband fell into outside relationships and then abandoned her and their 2 children without a word of farewell. The day he left, she could only sit silently in the empty house, her eyes red and swollen. That night, she hugged her child tightly and cried until her tears ran dry. She was not just sad because she was left behind, but because all her faith, all her efforts in the marriage, suddenly turned to zero. She once recounted that it was the period when she resisted most strongly. She couldn't accept the truth that her husband no longer loved her, She tried to analyze, tried to find reasons, tried to cling to what was too late. She lived in resentment, blame, remorse, and self-blame. Every day, she felt like she was living in a whirlwind of negative emotions. Lying next to her child at night, her heart was still churning with unanswered questions. She resented her husband, resented life, and then resented herself. The more she resisted, the more she hurt. The more she ran away, the more tired she became. It was a period when even her breath felt heavy. Then one day, utterly stuck, she sought a meditation retreat at a small temple in the suburbs. Initially, she just wanted a quiet place to rest. But on the third morning of the retreat, while meditating under a large Bodhi tree, she heard a leaf gently fall onto her shoulder. In that moment, she didn't know why, but tears of peace streamed down her face. No longer anger, no longer resentment, but just the pure sorrow of a heart wanting to heal. She recounted that, for the first time, she clearly felt that she had been hurting for too long, simply because her mind refused to confront it. During a meditative writing session, she wrote a short but resolute sentence in her small notebook. "I will transform pain into strength." She didn't know why she wrote that sentence. It was simply her mind urging her to do so. The day she returned, she began to look at her wounds with a different spirit. She no longer tried to find fault. She no longer questioned why. She practiced acceptance, accepting that the person who left was not meant to stay, accepting that she deserved more peace than that, accepting that the path ahead needed a strong heart. From that acceptance, she began to transform her life. She was skilled at cooking, especially Central Vietnamese dishes. Instead of being consumed by pain, she poured all her energy into opening a small cooking class in her own kitchen. She taught women like herself, women who wanted to learn to cook for their families, or wanted to create a small business to earn a living. Her class was not large, but it was always filled with laughter and chatter. Children came to play there, and adults cooked while sharing stories. Each dish she taught contained not only flavor, but also love and resilience forged through life's storms. When recounting her story, she gently said, "If I had continued to resist those days, perhaps I wouldn't have such a happy life now." She said that her wound now felt like a pearl, resting peacefully in her heart. It no longer caused pain, but had become something that helped her shine. It was thanks to that hurt that she learned to love herself more, understand life better, and cherish every moment of peace with her child. The pain of the past had transformed into wisdom. The breakup of that year had transformed into a powerful energy for her to build a new life. The Buddha taught that every pain is a great lesson if we are willing to learn. Every wound is an opportunity for light to enter if we allow it. Nothing in life comes to punish us. Everything comes to teach us to grow, to love, and to return to ourselves. To see the light, one must dare to enter the darkness. To understand oneself, one must dare to look into one's own heart. When the heart opens, life opens the way. When the heart is willing to let go, happiness will find its way. The important thing is to return to the breath, to calm the turmoil in the heart. When the mind begins to stir, close your eyes and breathe deeply. Inhale, recognizing the presence of sadness. Exhale, smiling gently at yourself. Each breath is a step back to peace. Each breath is a way to embrace pain, so it is no longer sharp. Then, take a few minutes to write down what makes your heart heavy. And then write the sentence Ms. Hoa once wrote, "I will transform pain into strength." That sentence is not a slogan, but a declaration to yourself that you can overcome everything. Then, place your hand on your chest and say a very soft sentence. "I am learning to love myself." Just practicing a little each day, the mind will gradually become Ara. People only suffer when the mind hardens. When the mind softens, wisdom naturally illuminates. What we need is not to forget pain, but to go through it. Not to chase away negative emotions, but to understand what they want to tell us about our deepest fears and desires. Wherever you are on your healing journey, trust that you are strong enough to overcome it. You are like the tiny oyster in the deep sea. Any wound that passes through your life can become a precious pearl if you have enough patience to envelop it with compassion. Believe in your ability to transform. One day, when you look back, you will see that pain itself led you to the shores of peace and growth. There are days when you feel like life is spinning you in an endless loop. You wake up feeling tired. Before you've even started anything, your mind is already full of heavy thoughts. Your heart feels like it's carrying a whole gloomy sky of worries, always unsettled and restless. It's as if you're afraid to face yourself, afraid of silence, afraid to sit still for a moment, lest unwanted thoughts rush back. You long for peace, but the more you chase it, the more distant it seems. You want to let go of everything that pains your heart, but your hands clench, your mind holds on. You want to be happier, but don't know where to start. You just feel like life is a current you're caught in, unable to stop, unable to breathe. And amidst the countless daily fatigues, sometimes you startle and ask, what am I living for, ultimately? And have I truly lived? Or am I just trying to exist day by day? In that moment, if you place your hand on your chest, touching your heartbeat, you will realize what we often overlook. The heart still beats, the breath still comes and goes. This body silently endures so many things we don't see. You may be sad, worried, or confused, but your body patiently carries you through each day. That reminds us of a truth the Buddha taught. Nothing in this life belongs to us forever, and no one can walk any part of our journey for us. We must walk with our own feet, confront with our own hearts, and realize with our own wisdom. No one can live for us, and no one can suffer for us. All the pain, the turmoil, the letting go, the growth, it's all a journey that only we ourselves must undertake. When we sit still and look deeply into the nature of life, we begin to see something very familiar that we had never named before. The thing countless people search for their entire lives, believing it to be profound or distant, turns out to be right in this very close moment. What we call happiness is actually not something grand. The Buddha taught that when the body is healthy and the mind is at peace, that is happiness. You don't need to conquer the world. You don't need anyone's praise. You don't need anyone's recognition. You just need to wake up without fears clouding your heart. You just need to go to sleep with a heart free from sorrow. You just need to breathe without feeling heavy. You just need to walk without feeling strained. Then that is a precious kind of happiness, more valuable than anything money can buy. Happiness is sometimes just a warm bowl of rice, a sound sleep, a light breath, a peaceful afternoon. But people tirelessly search for grand things and miss the smallest, yet most profound aspects of life. Those who don't know how to let go will never know what freedom is. Because the more the mind clings, the more easily it hurts. We think holding on is safe, but in reality, holding on only makes us heavier. We think letting go is losing, but in reality, letting go is opening a lighter door. Everyone has a span of life. They must face themselves, grow themselves, understand themselves. And to understand the nature of life, we must look back at ourselves with a compassionate and mindful eye. Amidst that realization, I want to tell you the story of a farmer named Tam. He lived in a peaceful countryside, having spent decades with his rice fields, with early mornings covered in white mist over the paddies, and evenings when the wind blew through the bamboo groves around his house. His life was very simple. Mornings, he wore his conical hat to the fields. Evenings, he washed his feet in the yard. And nights, he sat by the fire, listening to crickets chirp in the garden. He didn't want to bother anyone, and was not one to complain about anything. But within that tranquility lay a hidden sorrow that only he knew. Recently, his body was often tired, his breathing heavy, and his back ached every time he bent down. But he quietly ignored it, telling himself that he would get used to it, and it would pass. He was afraid of bothering his children, afraid of others worrying, afraid of expenses, afraid of everything being disrupted. He chose silence, believing that life still had so many things to do, and that his illness would subside on its own. Day after day, he let his body struggle alone, until his illness worsened and he no longer had the strength to stand long in the yard, no longer had the breath to laugh when he met neighbors. His children took him to the doctor and discovered his illness was in an advanced stage. At that moment, he sat silently for a long time in front of the rice field before him. The wind blew through his gray hair as gently as a caress. It seemed that his entire life he had worried about others, carried so many heavy burdens, but had never truly cared for himself. He realized that no matter how much love there was, no one could live for him. No one could be sick for him. And no one could feel the pain of his body for him. Everyone has a part of karma, a part of destiny, a part of a path that only they themselves can fully walk. What he thought was strength turned out to be forgetting himself, and what he thought was responsibility turned out to be a stubbornness that silently hurt his body and mind. He sat looking at the lush green field, where he had tilled and hoed and sweated for decades, and sighed. He realized that life is actually very simple. The rice fields still grow whether we worry or not. The sun still rises every day, whether we are tired or not. The seasons still change, whether we ponder or not. His whole life, he had chased after things that weren't truly necessary, trying to carry things he could have put down long ago. His illness became a bell, reminding him that if we don't know how to stop, how to take care of ourselves, how to return within, then life, no matter how full, becomes fragile. He began to learn to breathe slower, eat slower, speak more softly, and live each day more gently. The illness caused him pain, but also awakened him. He saw more clearly than ever that the most precious things were not his fields, not his possessions, not praise, but his health and inner peace. Mr. Tam's story is not uncommon. Many of us are living like that, constantly working, earning money, preserving, trying to please others, but forgetting that our bodies are tired, our hearts are heavy, our minds are afraid. We strive so much that we forget this body has limits. We run so much that we forget every breath has an end. We try to love others so much that we forget to love ourselves. And only when misfortune knocks on the door do we suddenly realize that no one can walk the whole path for us. No one can kneel and repent for us. No one can bear our pain for us. No one can take away our karma for us. Everything lies within this mind. Life, therefore, becomes a profound journey, where each step carries a lesson that we can discover for ourselves. In the light of the Buddha's teachings, we understand that body and mind are inseparable companions. For the body to be healthy, the mind must be light. For the mind to be at peace, the body must be cared for. Those who practice meditation will see the truth that happiness does not come from outside, but from how we live with ourselves. A simple bowl of rice, eaten with a peaceful mind, is more delicious than 100 lavish feasts eaten in turmoil. A small, warm, peaceful home is more valuable than many villas filled with worries. The things people pursue at all costs are sometimes just to fill the emptiness in their hearts. But if the mind is at peace, life will naturally be at peace. If the mind knows how to let go, life will naturally be light. So, how do we let go? The Buddha taught that first, we must clearly see what is causing suffering in our minds. It could be stubbornness, comparison, fear of loss, regret, or blame. When we look with mindfulness, we see that no emotion lasts forever. Everything flows like water, drifts like clouds across the sky. We don't need to suppress or drive away. We just need to observe the mind as we observe a river. Emotions come and go. Thoughts come and go. Nothing is us. Nothing belongs to us forever. What we can do is choose to be gentle with ourselves. Choose to love because we deserve it. Choose to let go of what has hurt us. You can start practicing with a short meditation right now. Sit still, back straight, shoulders relaxed. Place your hands on your belly and feel your breath going in and out. Don't try to control it. Just feel. As you breathe in, you feel your body soften. As you breathe out, you release everything that is heavy in your heart. Let your breath cleanse every corner of your mind. Let the silence heal the wounds you have carried for too long. Then listen to your heartbeat, as if hearing the call of life itself. Each beat reminds you that you still have the opportunity to live lighter, love yourself more, rest at the right time, and let go of what doesn't belong to you. You can also write down 3 things you are grateful for today. It could be a delicious meal, an afternoon with a breeze, or just the breath still in your chest. When your mind turns to gratitude, all sorrows naturally shrink. Or you can forgive someone you have been angry with for too long, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is not accepting a fault, but opening a door for yourself to step out of the prison of your own emotions. We don't need to try to be someone. We don't need to strain to become something. We just need to be healthy and peaceful. When the body is healthy, the mind will be at peace. When the mind is at peace, life will be happy. Letting go does not make us lose anything. It only takes away the unnecessary sufferings we carry. The path you walk, whether long or short, is a path that only one person walks. Walk with understanding, compassion, and gentleness towards yourself. May you always choose peace every day. And may your heart always be wide enough to contain both pain and healing. Happiness is actually right here, in every breath you feel. Just return, and it will open its arms to welcome you, wishing you peace in every moment of this life. There are days when you wake up feeling a heavy weight on your shoulders, as if you hadn't rested at all the night before. Stepping out of the house, you encounter countless things that stir your heart. When you see others succeed, you feel inferior. When you hear someone say something displeasing, your heart tightens. When you try to do something good and no one acknowledges it, you feel discouraged. Then, whenever you pass an old friend and hear them talk about their abundant life, you feel like you're standing still on the path of life. Your mind begins to compare. Your intellect begins to calculate. Your heart becomes full of desires and disappointments. You don't know when your heart became so tired of trivial things and your mind so burdened by things that aren't truly important. People often say that life is a long journey with many thorns. But in reality, what tires us most is not the road ahead, but the invisible burdens we carry on our shoulders. We are tired because we desire too much. We are sad because we compare too much. We suffer because we calculate too much. We hurt because we resent for too long. These things are like tiny grains of sand falling into the bag we carry daily. At first, it seems light, but after a long time, that bag of sand becomes a boulder on our back, making it impossible to move. Some choose to keep carrying it, some choose to let go to feel lighter. The difference between the two is not in their circumstances, but in a mind that knows what to hold on to and what to leave behind. In the Buddha's teachings, suffering is not because life is difficult, but because the mind doesn't know how to let go. The more the mind clings, the more it hurts. The more the mind wants what doesn't belong to it, the more disappointed it becomes. And those disappointments are like layers of dust covering our eyes, preventing us from seeing the truth of life. That happiness is not something out of reach, but something present in every moment when we know how to return to ourselves. Let go of desires and disappointment lessons. Let go of comparisons, and the mind is peaceful. Let go of calculations, and the heart is light. Let go of hatred, and life becomes spacious. This truth is simple, but often we have to go through many falls to truly understand it. In your own journey through life's market, have you ever felt like you're standing before a scale, constantly placing all sorts of emotions on it? One day, you put on it the desire for others to understand you. The next day, you place on it the envy of seeing someone better than you. And sometimes, you put on it self-doubt because you feel you're not good enough. That scale tips this way and then that, leaving your heart never stable. And you think life is making you restless, but in reality, your own mind is making life heavy. There's a story I want to tell, gentle, like a mirror for us to look at ourselves. It's the story of Mr. Bin, a small vendor living in a small market town by a river. Mr. Bin sold vegetables every morning, waking very early while it was still dark to gather and sort his goods before taking them to the market. His life wasn't overly abundant, but neither was it lacking. He had a gentle wife, well-behaved children, and a small house always filled with the warmth of a cooking fire every evening. From the outside, anyone would think he was lucky. Yet, deep inside his heart, there was always an unspoken sadness. Mr. Bin constantly compared himself to other vendors in the market. Seeing the butcher earn more, he felt sorry for himself. Seeing the shrimp and fish vendors have more customers, he felt less fortunate. Seeing the fruit vendor with a more beautiful stall, he felt discouraged. Every time the market was crowded, he would glance at the stall next door to see how much they were selling. Seeing them busy, he felt uncomfortable. Seeing their radiant faces, he felt he was being left behind. He spent the whole day selling, but his mind had wasted so much energy just on comparisons. Because of this, he was often irritable, easily sad, easily disappointed, and rarely smiled completely when he returned home at night. One afternoon, after the market closed, Mr. Bin sat sighing on his doorstep. His mother came out of the house, saw her son looking sorrowful, and sat down beside him. She didn't ask much, just looked at him for a while, and then spoke in a very soft, peaceful voice, like a cool stream of water. She said that in this world, whether people sell 1 kilogram of vegetables or 10 kilograms of meat, they all end up sleeping on one bed. Whether people earn a few hundred or a few million, everyone relies on their own breath to live at night. And she added, if you spend all day just looking at others, will you ever see the happiness that is right in your own home? That remark left Mr. Bin speechless. He realized that all this time he had been chasing after things that weren't truly important. He compared, forgetting that everyone has their own destiny, their own karmic affinity, their own blessings. He desired, forgetting that life inherently has its ups and downs. He calculated, forgetting that joy is not measured by money, but by inner peace. That evening, he looked at his wife and children and saw them still smiling at him with all their love. He looked at himself and saw that he still had enough health to work. He looked at his small house and found it wonderfully cozy. He understood that what he lacked was not money, but gratitude and acceptance. Mr. Bin's story is like the scale in life's market that everyone has once placed themselves on. We don't intentionally compare, but the mind compares itself. We don't intentionally desire, but the heart demands. We don't intentionally blame, but the heart blames itself. From there, we lose our own peace. Letting go of those comparisons is not because we are weak, but because we want to live lighter. Letting go of desires is not to live lower, but to allow the heart to be wider. And letting go of hatred is not for others' benefit, but for our own peace of mind. In Buddhist scriptures, it is taught that the mind is like water. When water is stirred up, we cannot see the bottom. When the mind is stirred up by comparisons and desires, we cannot see happiness. Only when the water returns to a calm state does the bottom become clear. Only when the mind returns to a state of letting go does true happiness become manifest. Letting go is not giving up entirely, but a wise choice. Letting go to see that we deserve peace. Letting go to see that life is inherently gentle. Letting go to see that no one is perfect, and no one should strain to become a copy of someone else. When we stop comparing, life stops being tiring. When we stop calculating, the heart stops being heavy. When we stop desiring, happiness naturally appears. Another lesson we easily forget is that sometimes silence is the kindest answer to life. Silence is not surrender. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not endurance. Silence is knowing that speaking out only drains our energy, while holding back keeps our hearts light. Silence is putting down what needs not be kept and keeping what should not be let go of. Some hurts don't need words, just time. Some complaints don't need explanations, because explanations won't make others understand. Silence at the right time is an act of compassion for oneself, and also a way to avoid creating more karma. When the mind is broad enough, we no longer want to prove anything. When the heart is peaceful enough, we no longer want to compete with anyone. That is freedom. So, how do we practice letting go in life? You can start with a small but very effective practice. Place your hand on your chest, close your eyes, and breathe very slowly. As you breathe in, you feel your breath going deep into your body, bringing awareness. As you breathe out, you send out the sorrows that are weighing you down. Let your breath become the connection to peace. Then think about something you have been comparing or desiring most recently. It could be work, income, appearance, or someone's praise. Look at it and ask yourself if that thing truly determines your happiness. If the answer is no, smile gently and let it go. A little each day, you will find your heart brighter. You can also write down 3 things you are grateful for today. Grateful for health, grateful for loved ones, grateful for a home to return to. When the mind turns to gratitude, other comparisons naturally become small. Because you realize you already have enough, it's just that your mind hasn't accepted it. Another practice that can remind Mr. Bin and also apply to you. Every night before bed, spend a few minutes reviewing your day and ask what you held too tightly today. If it was annoyance, put it down. If it was comparison, return it to the wind. If it was regret, gently say goodbye. As your mind lightens little by little, you will find that life still holds so many warm things waiting for you to discover. I hope you understand that letting go is an art of living that comes from awareness. Not everyone can let go immediately, but everyone can choose to start. And just by starting, you have completed half the journey. I hope you will slow down, be softer, and gentler with yourself. I hope you understand that everyone has a scale in their heart, and that scale only truly stands still when you stop comparing. I hope you know that silence at the right time is a gift you give to your own heart. Wishing you peace, enough wisdom to recognize what to keep, and enough gentleness to let go of what is done. Happiness is always very close. Just let the mind hold less and open more. In this life full of clashes and changes, each of us has had moments when we felt as if we were bound by an invisible rope. We are tied by an old pain, a relationship that is no longer healthy, a memory that makes our hearts ache every time we recall it, or a hope that has long withered, yet we still try to hold on. Some wake up every morning tired because they have to keep clinging to something that no longer belongs to them. Some lie down every night, tossing and turning, because they don't know whether to continue or stop. Some hurt because they fear losing, but hurt even more when they try to cling tightly. And there are souls who are so afraid of loneliness that they imprison themselves in things that hurt them. We often think that if we let go of something, we will lose it forever. We fear the feeling of emptiness, fear that the space before us will be too vast, fear of starting over, fear of days without anyone, fear of being alone in this big life. So we hold on, keep, cling, tighten our hearts. And then one day, looking back, we realize that it is precisely this clinging that has hurt us the most. In the endless flow of modern life, when everything moves fast and the mind is more tired than the body, many people forget that letting go is not failure. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is not weakness or incompetence. Letting go, when seen with the clear eyes of someone who has experienced enough suffering, is a form of strength and maturity. The Buddha taught that human life has two great sufferings. One is having to separate from what we love, and two is having to cling tightly to what causes us pain. When we understand this, we see that a person who knows how to let go is not a cowardly person who avoids things, but a person wise enough to see what should be kept and what is time to release. The human mind is inherently like a small room. When we fill it with unnecessary things, even light struggles to find its way in. For the mind to have a place for peace to reside, sometimes we have to clear out old, decaying things. For the mind to have room for love to return, sometimes we have to close the door to unhealed wounds. And for life to be lived more deeply, more genuinely, we must learn to see clearly that some things, the tighter we hold on to them, the faster they slip away. Some people ask why the more they hold on, the more they lose. Because when we hold too tightly, all that remains in our hand is fear. When we cling to something that is no longer suitable, we unintentionally distort that very thing. Love needs space to breathe, needs quiet to revive. Any relationship is the same. Sometimes it has to be relaxed for it to naturally return to its rightful place. If we hold on to the root of a tree and don't allow it to grow, it will wither. If we cage a bird just because we fear it will fly away, it will never return when it truly has a chance to spread its wings. The tighter we cling, the further away the thing we fear losing drifts. Because in clinging, there is always a shadow of worry, lack of self-confidence, and weariness. And in that weariness, we lose ourselves before we lose others. Once I met a woman who said she had never dared to let go of anything in life. She was afraid that those who stayed would also leave her, so she tried to hold on as tightly as possible. The result was that one day she felt she no longer had the strength to move forward. I think that is also a common sentiment for many of us, because deep down, everyone fears emptiness, fears facing the quietness of their own mind. But in Buddhism, quietness is always a place for the mind to return. Letting go is not to lose, but to return to oneself. In the spiritual journey, people often say that letting go is the first door to freedom. No one enters peace with hands holding too much. nor does anyone find happiness when the mind is cluttered with attachments. Everything begins with relaxation. When we let go of a pain, we are allowing our hearts to heal. When we let go of an excessive expectation, we are giving ourselves the opportunity to breathe lightly. When we let go of a toxic relationship, we are opening a path for a better life to enter. To better understand the power of letting go, let's look at the story of Ms. Tram, an office worker who once clung tightly to something that no longer belonged to her. Ms. Tram was someone who always gave her all in a long-term relationship. The more she loved, the more she feared losing. And that fear made her sensitive, anxious, and dependent. The man she loved was not bad or evil, but their relationship gradually became toxic as the emotional distance between them grew. The more Ms. Tram tried to cling, the more he pulled back. The more she held on, the more he wanted to leave. Yet she had never dared to think of the words, "let go." Until one day, after many arguments over trivial things, she sat dazed in front of her office. In her hand were long, unsent messages, and in her heart was a tangled mess of emotions. That day, the office had organized a charity trip to a temple, and Ms. Tram hadn't intended to go. But due to her mental exhaustion, she decided to join, hoping to find a little peace. When she arrived at the temple, she saw an old monk sitting by a small wooden cage with a few sparrows hopping inside. Whenever someone came to release birds, the monk would gently open the cage door so the birds could fly into the wide sky. As she watched, one bird hesitated, unwilling to fly. The old monk smiled and explained that some birds get used to being in the cage for too long, so when the door opens, they don't know whether to fly out or not. He said it was strange. When the cage door is opened, the bird also has a choice. If it wants freedom, it will fly. If it wants to stay, it can stand there a little longer. The important thing is that the door is open. Those words deeply touched Ms. Tram's heart. She wondered if she was like that bird. She had always lived in fear, thinking that if she opened the door, the other person would fly away. But it was precisely because of that fear that she had turned her own life into a cage, trapping both herself and the one she loved in anxiety and constraint. When the old monk gently lifted the bird toward the door, it looked at the sky for a long time, and then suddenly flapped its wings and flew away powerfully. In that moment, Ms. Tram burst into tears, not because the bird flew away, but because she understood that some things, if they truly want to stay, will return, even if the door is wide open. And things that don't belong to us, no matter how tightly we hold them, will still want to find a wider place to live, true to their nature. From that touch, Ms. Tram, for the first time, allowed herself to ask a question she had never dared to face before. Am I holding on to this relationship because of love or because of fear? After many sleepless nights, she chose to give herself a pause to listen to her heart. She put down her excessive desires, stepped back from control, and made room for both of them to have space to breathe. The miracle was that after that relaxation, she felt herself lighten little by little. There was pain, regret, and disappointment, but she began to feel life returning to her heart. And she also realized that the man, no longer being clung to, had also chosen to walk away gently. He didn't come back, but she no longer hurt as before, because now she understood that letting go was no longer a loss, but a liberation for herself. In Buddhism, there is a beautiful saying that when we close our hand, we can only hold a small handful of sand. But when we open our hand, we can receive an entire sky. Freedom always lies in opening, not in clenching. Just like the sky, love needs space to spread. Just like a peaceful breeze, it only comes when the mind is no longer straining. And just like water, happiness can only flow when our hearts know how to let everything go in its rightful direction. The Buddhist teaching says that in life, only those who know how to let go truly understand impermanence. Everything changes whether we want it or not. People meet due to karma and separate when the karma is exhausted. We only borrow each other for a segment of the path to learn a necessary lesson. Letting go is clearly seeing that what has come, we embrace. What is gone, we bid farewell. What remains in the heart, we reflect upon. No demands, no blame, no clinging to what doesn't belong to us. A heart that knows how to let go is a mature heart. It has the strength to look directly at the truth without fearing pain. It has the wisdom to understand that everything is a coming together and parting of conditions. If you are holding on to something that weighs on your heart, give your mind a little time to return within. Sit for a minute with soft breaths. Place your hand on your chest and feel the heartbeat speaking, telling you that you deserve peace. Breathe in deeply to recognize the emotion present. Breathe out slowly to release some of the heaviness in your heart. Write down a simple question. Does what I am holding on to still bring life or only make me tired? Write down all the things that cause you pain. Then add the question, if I let go, can I find myself again? Many people have found clear answers when they let their hands relax and their minds settle. A small practice for today is to give yourself something very light. A warm glass of water, a small quiet space, a cup of tea, a scripture, or simply a few minutes of looking into space without trying to control anything. Every day, practice letting go of one desire, one fear, one comparison, one regret. Let the mind know how to breathe. Let the heart know how to soften. And let life unfold naturally. When you release inner burdens, you will realize that life is much lighter than you thought. I hope you understand that letting go is not losing anything. Letting go is returning to yourself, seeing the truth that the tighter we hold on, the further away it drifts. But when we know how to open our hearts, what belongs to us will find its way back. Wishing you tonight a lighter state of mind than yesterday. Wishing you enough courage to let go of old things. And wishing you wake up tomorrow with a heart that knows it deserves a peaceful, loving, and truly happy life. There are days when you wake up and your heart feels heavy, as if carrying an entire gloomy sky in your chest. Your body isn't truly tired, but your mind is exhausted. As soon as you open your eyes, old thoughts rush back, and unresolved worries linger in your head. You know you want to be lighter, more peaceful, to take a long breath without choking. But you don't understand why. The longer you live, the more knots your mind ties. Life constantly presents small and large challenges, and we take them all into our hearts. We carry family worries, work pressures, the expectations others place on us, and even thoughtless words that hurt us and that we can't forget. At some point, you look back and realize that what makes you tired is not today's problems, but the burdens of too many past days. Humans always live amidst invisible demands. We want to be loved, understood, acknowledged, successful, to become a version that pleases everyone. But the longer we live, the more we realize that the world out there doesn't operate as we wish. Often, we just want a word of praise, but we receive doubts. We want a little empathy, but we receive coldness. We want peace, but are drawn into endless arguments. Each time, we gather a little more vexation into our minds. We accumulate it month after month, year after year, until our hearts are filled with the remnants of sadness, anger, and disappointment. The heaviness silently grows until one day we don't know how to manage to breathe lightly. The Buddha taught that our mind is like a lake. When the water is clear, the lake reflects the sky. When the water is murky, all scenery becomes distorted. Most of life's weariness does not come from circumstances, but from our own agitated minds. The current of our minds carries too much debris, preventing the water from becoming clear. Each worry is a handful of mud thrown to the bottom of the lake. Each resentment is a stone that causes ripples on the surface of the water. Each attachment is like a decaying branch falling down, clouding the otherwise tranquil lake. When we don't know how to let go, it means we are still holding everything in our hearts and stirring up the lake ourselves every day. But when we are willing to let everything go, when we dare to clear away the invisible garbage in our minds, when we are willing to learn to breathe amidst changes that don't go our way, the lake of our life will gradually clear. Letting go does not mean forgetting or being indifferent. Letting go is an act of awareness to return everything to its rightful place. The person who hurt us should probably only stand at the edge of our mind. What is past should only remain in the past. Tomorrow's worries don't need to be dragged into today. Seeing each thing clearly, putting it in its right place, that is letting go. Stopping clinging to what no longer belongs to us. That is also letting go. Accepting that everything in life is impermanent and cannot be held forever. That is even more letting go. In the Buddhist teachings, there is a saying that happiness comes from a light heart, while suffering comes from a full heart. The more we embrace, the more tired we become. The more we cling, the more we hurt. The more we demand, the more disappointed we become. To find peace, we must first give our minds space to breathe. We must clear away accumulated things. We must learn to write down what weighs us down to see them more clearly. Then, gently ask what truly needs to be kept and what should be let go of. There is a very simple story that contains a profound lesson. It's the story of a college student named Phuc in his first year. Phuc was an introverted, quiet person, but he thought a lot. At the time he started college, the new life was so different from his old environment that he always carried vague worries in his heart. Every morning he woke up, Phuc felt like there was an invisible stone on his chest. He was afraid he wasn't good enough, afraid he wouldn't keep up with friends, afraid of disappointing his parents because they had sacrificed so much for him to have the opportunity to study. There were evenings when he lay in the dorm, looking at the ceiling and not knowing why he was so sad. He didn't dare to tell anyone because he thought everyone was busy with their own lives. He kept everything to himself, and day by day, his mind grew heavier. One day, by chance, participating in a club activity, Phuc met a senior who was sharing about learning to let go in life. He said that when people don't know how to handle their emotions, they should try writing them down. When writing, we transform invisible thoughts into concrete forms. When we see them clearly before our eyes, we know what we are facing. He said that whenever he felt overwhelmed, he would sit down and write down 3 things that weighed most heavily on his heart, and then look at them carefully to realize that many things were not worth carrying all day long. That story made Phuc think. That evening, in his quiet room, he spread a blank sheet of paper on the table and sat for a long time, not knowing where to begin. Finally, Phuc wrote down 3 things that had been weighing him down all this time. 1 was the overwhelming academic pressure that made him fear he wasn't capable enough. 2 was the fear of failure that always lingered, making every step hesitant. 3 was the deep worry that if his academic results weren't as expected, his parents would be sad and disappointed. When he looked at those 3 lines, Phuc suddenly realized that the things that had been making him tired all this time were just thoughts. They hadn't actually happened. They only existed in his mind as images exaggerated by fear. Phuc understood that it was his imagination that caused him pain, not the reality. Just a blank sheet of paper helped him see what he hadn't been able to see for months. Phuc sat still for a long time before the paper, then gently tore it into small pieces. As each piece fell into the trash, he felt as if he had just put down an invisible burden. His mind wasn't immediately free of sadness, but it was lighter than before. The feeling of realizing for the first time that he could do something for himself made him feel at peace. The next morning, Phuc tried walking meditation as the senior had suggested. He walked slowly around the campus. Each step was a breath. Each breath was a return to himself. Phuc realized that he had been living in fear, chasing vague expectations. He had never stopped to listen to his own heart. After just a few days of persistent walking meditation, Phuc's mind began to lighten. He no longer forced himself to be strong all the time. He knew that he also had the right to be weak, to stop, to learn to let go of thoughts that did not bring peace. At that moment, Phuc's life began to change. He no longer chased perfection. He learned to choose his friends, staying away from people with negative energy. He sought out quiet spaces every weekend, sometimes the library, sometimes a small coffee shop, sometimes the temple grounds near the school. He practiced silence at the right time, not trying to explain unnecessary things. His mind gradually became like a new blank page. Every day was an opportunity to write something lighter on it. And then Phuc understood that a blank page is always the beginning of a new life. In that story, we clearly see that letting go is not a grand undertaking, but small, consistent actions every day. Letting go is daring to write down your innermost feelings, to see them clearly. Letting go is learning to walk slowly, to allow thoughts to settle. Letting go is moving away from energy sources that make us tired. Letting go is choosing a quiet place for the mind to find refuge. Letting go is being silent at the right time to avoid unnecessary disputes. When these practices become habits, the mind will naturally find peace. The Buddha once taught that for the mind to become, the body must know how to stop. For the heart to be light, thoughts must know how to cease. For life to be less suffering, attachments must dissolve. Daily practice is the shortest path for us to return to ourselves. When you sit and write down what makes you heavy, you are allowing your mind to see the truth clearly. When you take each step of walking meditation, you are teaching your mind to live in the present instead of dwelling on the past or chasing the future. When you avoid negative people, you are protecting your energy. When you seek a quiet place each week, you are nurturing the roots of peace in your heart. When you learn to be silent at the right time, you are preserving the clarity of your mind. Each of these actions is like a clear drop of water falling into a lake. Little by little, the lake surface settles. If you feel your life is too heavy, try starting tonight with a blank sheet of paper. Sit down and be honest with your heart. Write down 3 things that currently make you most tired. When you see them clearly, you will find that many things are not worth holding on to. You can tear up the paper or put it away somewhere to remind yourself that not everything needs to be carried. After writing, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, then go outside for a short walk. At that moment, you will feel a small space open up in your heart. Though small, it is very real. Practice this every day, persistently and slowly. Choose your friends wisely. Choose where you stand. Choose your words. Choose what you allow into your mind. Life cannot always be gentle, but you can be gentle with yourself. You can choose to live lighter. You can practice letting go of old things to make room for new ones in your mind. When you learn to put things down, you will suddenly realize that your own hands have unconsciously held too many unnecessary things. And when you let go a little, your mind will be a little more peaceful. When your mind is a little more peaceful, life will be a little brighter. Tomorrow will be different if today you start giving your heart a small pause. Wishing you, who are listening to these words, can find a new blank page for yourself, a new moment, a new breath, a truly light beginning. When the mind knows how to let go, life will naturally lighten. When the mind knows how to stop, happiness will naturally find its way. From this moment on, you deserve to live in the peace you create. In modern life, what makes people most tired is not work, not money, or the worries of daily bread, which are, in fact, an essential part of life, but the knots in relationships. Each of us has at least once experienced a tightening in our chest due to a thoughtless word from a loved one. We have stayed awake all night, just not understanding why someone we care about was distant. We sigh amidst busyness because our children don't listen, because our parents don't understand us, because our spouse doesn't perceive our efforts, and because friends sometimes make us feel lost. The fatigue in relationships is always the heaviest because it not only hurts us in the moment, but also lingers in our hearts for a very long time. We grow up with invisible expectations. Parents expect us to be good. We expect our children to understand. Wives expect husbands to be strong. Husbands expect wives to be gentle. Friends expect each other to always be there when needed. These expectations are inherently beautiful, but when they are not met, they become wounds. Many people carry a very silent sadness in their hearts. Sadness for things left unsaid. Sadness for feeling misunderstood. Sadness because each person is in their own corner and cannot draw closer to one another. Each time we are hurt in a relationship, our heart tightens a little more, and then we live more cautiously, more closed off, less trusting. Little by little, the intimacy between people suddenly becomes distant. But deep in everyone's heart, everyone longs to be loved. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone hopes to open their heart without being judged. Everyone wants to be in a warm relationship where no one hurts anyone. The Buddha taught that suffering in relationships often comes from two things. One, we want something from others, and we consider it to be right. Two, we fear losing something from others, and we try to hold on. Expecting too much leads to disappointment. Clinging too tightly leads to suffering. People say they love each other, but unintentionally hurt each other because everyone sees life through their own eyes. Everyone has reasons to be sad, stories to defend, wounds to hide. And that is why letting go in relationships is never abandoning love, but restoring freedom to both sides. In Buddhist philosophy, all relationships are karmic. When conditions are sufficient, we meet. When conditions align, we are close. When conditions expire, we separate. Children do not always understand their parents from the start. Parents do not always know how to love their children in the way their children wish. Spouses do not always agree on everything. Friends are not always soulmates for life. Each person is a unique world with emotions and experiences that we cannot fully see. Only by understanding this can we lessen our anger, blame, and learn to love more gently. A very beautiful story about letting go in the relationship between father and son. It's the story of Mr. Vin, a longtime guitar repairman on a small street. His shop always smelled of pine wood and the varnish of old guitars. Mr. Vin was a quiet man, but had very skillful hands. Just by looking at a guitar, he could tell immediately which string was too taut, which fret was out of alignment, or where the soundboard produced a wrong note. However, in his family life, Mr. Vin could not find the same harmony as when he tuned guitars. His son, Min, was a teenager growing up. Min liked freedom, new things, and was sometimes stubborn. Mr. Vin wanted his son to live with discipline, responsibility, go to school on time, and keep the house tidy. Despite loving his son, he didn't know how to express his feelings. Whenever Min went against his wishes, he would use a stern tone, which widened the gap between father and son. There were afternoons when the shop was empty. Mr. Vin looked at the empty chair by the shop door and remembered Min as a child, often playing with the guitar. Now, Min hardly ever came into the shop. Father and son would exchange only a few words before silence fell. The sadder he felt, the more instinctively he blamed his son, hoping he would understand what he wanted. But the stricter he was, the more Min avoided him. The more Min avoided him, the more Mr. Vin hurt. In the evenings, he would lie listening to the wind whistling through the cracks in the door, his heart heavy like a guitar string pulled too tight. One day, while repairing an old guitar, he picked up a thin guitar string and held it against the light. He gently pulled it with his hand and then released it. The sound that sprang up was jarring because the string was too taut. He tried to loosen it a little, and the sound softened. He loosened it a little more, and the sound became warm and just right. He sat motionless for a long time. Then he quietly spoke, as if to himself, "A string only sounds right when it's relaxed enough." That evening, Min came home late. Instead of blaming him, the father just looked at his son and gently asked a question he rarely spoke. "How was your day today?" Min was surprised, used to reprimands. That simple question left him speechless. Father and son sat down at the dinner table. The atmosphere was no longer tense as usual. The father told him about a customer who brought a guitar for repair and also recounted the story of the guitar string that afternoon. He said he understood that all this time he had unintentionally pulled the string too tight, making the sound of their affection so jarring. Min bowed his head and said in a small voice that he knew his father loved him. But every time his father was harsh, he felt like he was being forced to become someone else. Min said he wanted to be heard, not criticized. Mr. Vin remained silent for a long time, then nodded. For the first time, he understood that love is not control, and scolding never helps others grow. Love truly reaches the heart only when it is given with listening. From that day on, Mr. Vin changed the way he dealt with his son. He was less imposing, less turning love into rules. He chose to sit down and talk with his son with understanding. Min also became less rebellious, less resistant, because he felt love in a way that resonated with his young heart. Father and son didn't immediately become completely harmonious, but slowly learned to listen to each other, like two musical notes, finding their harmony again. After days of being lost, the guitar in the shop was also carefully adjusted, just like the relationship he was trying to heal. Mr. Vin's story teaches us that letting go in a relationship is not abandoning that person, much less being indifferent or distant. Letting go here means letting go of the ego, letting go of incorrect ways of loving, letting go of excessive expectations to truly see who the person in front of us is. The happiest relationship is not where there are no conflicts, but where no one hurts anyone. One person knows when to relax. One person knows how to listen when the other is tired. One person knows how to be silent, to let the other's heart breathe. Complete love is always born from understanding. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering in relationships is attachment to our own views and believing them to be right. We cling to our way of loving and think it's the best. We cling to the role we hold and forget that everyone has a vast inner life that we don't fully see. When we don't understand, we easily blame. When we don't listen, we easily hurt. But when we can let go of the ego, when we are willing to stand in someone else's perspective, when we accept that everyone has their own way of expressing themselves, love becomes gentle and relationships become peaceful. If you are feeling tired in a relationship, try returning to your breath first. Breathe in to recognize you are tense. Breathe out to realize what you desire. When the mind settles, you will see that what you thought was right might not be. You will see clearly what your desires are and what the person in front of you truly needs. Try writing down 3 things that make you tired in that relationship. Then look at them with a more objective eye. You might be surprised to realize that some things are not that important. Try spending an evening just listening, without rebutting. Try saying a gentle sentence instead of one that creates distance. Try letting go of the desire to control others. When you change a little, the relationship also changes. For children, love with patience, not rules. Children are like young plants. The more you force them to grow fast, the more easily they break. Parents listening is the water that helps them find their own way to grow. For parents, remember that they also have fears and wounds they don't know how to express. Being a child is not always easy, but sometimes just a little patience, a small question can make them feel loved. For your partner, sometimes showing vulnerability is a way for both to understand each other better. No one needs to be strong forever. Honesty about your own weariness is a bridge that brings two hearts closer. For friends, keep sincerity. When you don't flatter, aren't artificial, and don't try to be like someone else to be accepted, you will find people who are truly compatible. All these practices lead us to one thing. True love doesn't come from perfection, but from understanding. Letting go here is letting go of what separates us to keep what brings us closer. And finally, I want to offer you a gentle wish. May you have enough patience to listen to your loved ones. May your heart be wide enough not to hold on to things that hurt you. May you be peaceful enough to love without hurting anyone. May all relationships in your life be nourished by understanding and gentle letting go. When the mind knows how to let go, human connection will naturally warm. When we don't hurt anyone and don't allow anyone to hurt us, happiness will have a place to bloom in our hearts. Amidst the pace of modern life, humans often feel like they are racing against time. Everyone has things that weigh heavily on their hearts. Some constantly dwell on the past, filled with regrets. Others are consumed by fear of a future that hasn't arrived. Some, even sitting in a quiet room, have turbulent minds due to scenarios that haven't occurred. We live in the current of life, but our minds wander in places that don't belong to the present moment. That's why the older people get, the more tired they feel. Tired of things past that cannot be salvaged. Tired of things yet to come that make them anxious. Tired of clinging to things that no longer hold meaning in their hearts. Sometimes we sleep, but our minds don't rest. Sometimes we work, but our minds are full of hope and then disappointment, expectation, and then worry. Many of us are living without truly living, breathing without truly feeling the breath, walking without truly knowing our feet are touching the ground. And because of this, joy becomes fragile, while sadness lingers in the mind. We often ask ourselves, why is life so tiring? Why are people's hearts so heavy? Is it because of difficult work? Is it because of meager money? Is it because others make us sad? These reasons are all partly true, but the deepest part lies within our own minds. The Buddha taught that the cause of suffering is not in events themselves, but in how we react to them. When we don't know how to let go, our hearts are like a bag that is already full, but still tries to stuff more things in. We hold on to the past, even though it's no longer suitable. We fear the future, even though it hasn't arrived. We want to control everything, even though we know we are incapable of doing so. It is precisely this clinging that makes us heavier every day, like someone carrying a bag of stones on their back who dares not put it down. If we know how to put that bag of stones down, life will be much lighter. In Buddhism, the word let go does not mean giving up or escaping life. Letting go means making the mind lighter, not letting things that don't belong to the present control us. Letting go of the past is accepting that what has happened cannot be changed. Letting go of the future is understanding that worrying doesn't make us safer. Holding on to the present is living fully with what is present, what is happening right now. In this moment, if we are peaceful, we are happy. But if our minds keep chasing memories or imaginations, no matter how good life is, we will hardly be at ease. The ancients had a saying, "Where the mind is, there life is." What our mind focuses on, our life is influenced by it. If the mind is always fearful, life will be full of things that make us restless. If the mind is always sad, we will see sadness everywhere. But if the mind knows how to dwell in the present, every living moment becomes a gift. When we are in this moment, worries and regrets no longer have the chance to invade our hearts. Like the surface of water, when the wind stops blowing, it becomes calm. The mind is also like that. The mind is only peaceful when it is no longer pulled away by things that don't truly exist in the present. To clearly see that, let's listen to the story of Mrs. Mai, a night porridge vendor in a small market. Her life was simple, but not easy. Every evening, she pushed her old porridge cart to the market, standing by the hot pot of porridge in the cold of the night. The money she earned wasn't much, but it was enough to sustain her life. Though poor, what tired her most was not food or clothing, but worries about tomorrow. She always feared that if it rained, she wouldn't sell anything. She feared that if customers were scarce, she wouldn't have enough to pay for her room. She feared that if she got sick for a day, no one would take care of her. Thus, these worries silently accumulated. She lived each day in a state of tension and unease. Even when everything was fine, she still felt something unsettled in her heart. One night, it suddenly started raining heavily, and the wind blew so strong that the fire under the porridge pot went out. There were no customers. She shivered from the cold, looking at the full pot of porridge with a heavy heart. She thought of tomorrow with endless worry, thought of rent, electricity, rice money, thought of being old and unable to do anything else. The rain grew heavier and heavier, preventing her from continuing to sell. She packed up and pushed her cart home early in the rain. As she passed a temple, the eaves by the gate offered her a dry place to take temporary shelter. She stood huddled under the eaves, her hands trembling from the cold and worry. Just then, the temple gate opened. The monk stepped out, saw her drenched, and invited her in for a hot cup of tea. Mrs. Mai sat down, her heart still entangled with worries. The monk gently asked why she had returned so early. She just sighed and said that it was raining. She couldn't sell anything, and she needed money for tomorrow. She said she feared tomorrow. Feared tomorrow would be harder. Feared bad things would happen. Feared life would become heavier and heavier. The monk listened and then asked, "Has tomorrow arrived yet?" She shook her head. The monk continued, "If tomorrow hasn't arrived, why are you already afraid?" She hesitated, unable to say anything. The monk said that people often suffer because they carry worries about things that haven't happened. People create all sorts of fears in their minds and then make themselves restless. He said that tomorrow does not belong to worry. Tomorrow belongs to karmic conditions. What you need to do is not to fear, but to live fully in the moment you have. The monk's words made Mrs. Mai awaken. She realized that for years she had lived more in worry than in the things that actually happened. Every day that passed, she didn't live for today, but only thought about the day that hadn't come. From that day on, she gradually learned to change. She still sold porridge as usual, but her mindset was completely different. When the weather was sunny, she was happy because she sold a lot. When it rained, she considered it a day of rest for her body. When life was sometimes good, sometimes bad, she was no longer overly afraid. She learned to focus on the task at hand, on her breath while waiting for customers, on the sound of the wind blowing through the small tarpaulins. Things she had previously ignored now became a support that helped her find peace. One morning, she happened to meet the monk again while cleaning up her stall. She said that her life hadn't changed much, but her mind had. She said that when her mind was at peace, tomorrow was no longer scary. Mrs. Mai's story makes us realize that when we can't let go of worry, we cannot live fully, whether life is poor or rich. When our mind is pulled to the past or the future, we lose the present, and the present is the only place where life truly happens. The Buddha taught that impermanence is the nature of life. Everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. The past has flowed away like old water. The future has not yet arrived, like clouds that haven't turned into rain. The present is a drop of water in our hand. If we hold that drop of water very gently, it will sparkle in the sunlight and reveal its complete beauty. But if we squeeze it tightly, that drop of water will disappear. The mind is also like that drop of water. If we let the mind live with the moment as it is, the mind will be clear. But if we let the mind run to places that are not real, the mind will be confused. From Mrs. Mai's story, we can draw the lesson that nothing is more important than this moment, because where the mind is, there life is. If our mind is at peace, life will be calm. If our mind is confused, everything will also become confused. When we know how to sit with our true emotions, we will no longer be carried away by the fear of the future or the regret of the past. We understand that every day we live is a gift. We understand that everything needs time and karmic conditions. We understand that when the mind settles, we will hear the whispers of life, see the beauty that we previously missed because we were too busy worrying. To live mindfully, we can start with very small practices. When you wake up, place your hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat. Remind yourself that you are still alive. That is more precious than anything. When you eat, chew slowly and savor the taste. When you walk, pay attention to each step. When you are sad, breathe deeply a few times to let your mind settle. When you worry about the future, ask yourself if what you are worrying about is truly happening. If it hasn't happened, bring your mind back to the present. If the past rushes back, remind yourself that the past is just a memory, not where you are standing. Another exercise is to write down something that makes you worried. When you write, you will see your fear more clearly. and realize that many things you thought were terrible are actually just thoughts. You can also practice gratitude every evening. Grateful for a meal, grateful for someone who smiled at you, grateful for a breeze, grateful for a complete night's sleep. When we are grateful, our mind will return to what we have. When the mind returns, the mind will be at peace. After all, letting go is not weakness, but the action of a strong person. A strong person is one who dares to put down the things that cause them suffering. A strong person is one who dares to face the past without letting it control them. A strong person is one who dares to look at the fear of the future and smile. A strong person is one who knows that happiness is not in yesterday or tomorrow, but in this very moment. I hope that by the time you hear this, your heart is a little lighter. I hope you can relax your shoulders and let your mind rest after long days of worrying. I hope you realize that you don't need to strain too much to please life. You just need to keep your mind in the present. Tomorrow may come with many challenges, but if your mind is firm, nothing can make you fall. When the mind is calm, the world is calm. When the mind is clear, the path will be clear. Let the present become your refuge. Let your breath bring you back to yourself. And believe that once the mind knows how to let go, life will naturally become gentle.